Hello and welcome to Nightline. I'm Nakia Basharuddin. Your headlines. Government fails to get two-thirds parliament majority to amend constitution. Dato Osman Sapian quits as Johor Menteri Besar. And Malaysia, Singapore agreed to resolve water deal dispute. The constitutional amendment bill to restore the status of Sabah and Sarawak as equal partners with the Federation of Malaya as enshrined in the Malaysia Agreement 1963 failed to get the required two-thirds majority support in the Dewan Rakyat Tuesday night. The bill was short by only 10 votes after it was put up for block voting by Dewan Rakyat Speaker Datuk Muhammad Arif Yusof. A total of 138 MPs voted for the amendment and 59 abstained. There were a total of 197 out of the 221 Dewan Rakyat members who were present for the vote. Earlier in the day, a total of 46 federal lawmakers took part in the debate involving the amendment. In his winding-up speech, Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad said the lawmakers in general support the amendment, some with conditions. He added that there is also no need to refer the amendments to the Rulers' Conference as it did not touch the rulers' special privileges, rights and position. Dato Osman Sapian has quit as Johor Menteri Besar just 11 months after assuming the post. This was confirmed by Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad on Tuesday, who said that Dato Osman tendered his resignation on Monday.
Menteri Besar Johor telah letak jawatan semalam dengan surat kepada saya dan akan menghantar surat juga kepada Sultan Johor. Tentang siapa penggantinya kita belum tentukan, tetapi mengikut perjanjian dalam Pakatan Harapan, Menteri Besar Johor hendaklah terdiri daripada Parti Bersatu.
Tun Dr. Mahathir said Sultan Ibrahim, however, has yet to be notified as he is currently abroad. Speaking to newsmen at Parliament lobby, the Prime Minister did not state the reasons behind the MB's sudden resignation, but accepted the Kompas State Assemblyman's decision. Dato Osman's short tenure as Menteri Besar has been erratic. His inspection of the Johor new port limits amid a maritime dispute with Singapore has inevitably sparked a diplomatic row with its neighbour. He was also criticised for his handling of the toxic waste dumping issue in Pasir Gudang that caused thousands to seek medical attention after inhaling toxic fumes and forced the temporary closure of over 100 schools in the district. Malaysia and Singapore have agreed to amicably resolve a long-running dispute over the raw water deal that has stoked tensions between the two neighbouring countries for decades. In a joint media briefing in Putrajaya on Tuesday, Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad and his Singaporean counterpart Lee Hsien Loong said they are open to resolving the disagreement over water prices through arbitration.
Malaysia and Singapore had obligations under the 1962 Johor River Water Agreement. For Malaysia, resolving the long-standing issues of water price review is a priority. We are engaged in active negotiations on the review in the late 90s and early 2000s. Prime Minister Lee and I have agreed to find amicable solutions on this issue, including the possibility of dispute resolution through arbitration on a mutually agreed basis.
The two leaders also plan to proceed with delimiting the maritime boundary and resolving issues over airspace and a suspended high-speed rail project. Tun Dr. Mahathir said Malaysia will also give priority to overcoming traffic congestion at the Johor-Singapore Causeway and Tuas Second Link. Earlier, the Prime Minister and Foreign Minister, Datuk Saifuddin Abdullah, welcomed Lee, who arrived at Perdana Putra at 10 a.m. The two Prime Ministers then held a four-eyed meeting, followed by a delegation meeting. Malaysia and Singapore are each other's second largest trade partner, with total trade worth $59.92 billion or 245 billion ringgit in 2018. Meanwhile, on the Kuala Lumpur-Singapore high-speed rail project, Tun Dr. Mahathir said Malaysia is exploring proposals aimed at reducing the cost of the project. The Prime Minister said the government's priority is to reduce the country's debt and ensure an economically viable project that is able to generate an acceptable rate of return.
There is significant economic benefits to enhance public transport connectivity within both countries. However, projects have to be feasible and sustainable. It is the government of Malaysia's priority to reduce the country's debt and to ensure an economically viable project which is able to generate an acceptable rate of return.
The Prime Minister said the matter will be discussed further with Singapore before the end of the project's suspension period on May 31st next year. In response, Singapore Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong said Singapore understood that Malaysia needed time to review the cost and any alternative options, although the Republic continued to see it as a good project. Meanwhile, the ongoing dispute between the European Union, EU, and the world's two largest palm oil producers, Malaysia and Indonesia, intensified after both countries teamed up to oppose EU's plan to ban the use of palm oil in biofuels. Tun Dr. Mahathir and Indonesian President Joko Widodo sent a joint letter of objection to the EU over the weekend, as well as delegations to Brussels, Belgium, to complain over the matter to the members of the European Parliament. The matter was confirmed by an Indonesian official who declined to disclose the content of the letter. The delegations, led by Primary Industries Ministry Secretary General Datuk Dr. Tan Yu Chong for Malaysia and Indonesia's Deputy Minister for Food and Agriculture and Coordinating Minister for Economic Affairs Musdalifah Mahmud, who arrived in Brussels on Monday, ended the two-day official visit on Tuesday after raising the two major global palm oil producers' protests. The Council of Palm Oil Producing Countries, CPOPC, has called the EU delegated regulation scientifically flawed because it discriminates biofuels and bioliquids produced from palm oil against other oil crops such as soy, rapeseed and sunflower. The act put forward by the European Commission will become law unless a majority in the European Parliament or in the group of EU countries objects. So far, there are no indications that either will do so. It is understood that Malaysia and Indonesia would file a World Trade Organization (WTO) complaint once the new rules are adopted. The defense team in former Prime Minister Datuk Sri Muhammad Najib Tun Razak's case over SRC International Student Berhad's funds has filed a notice of motion seeking to revoke the 7 charges on grounds that they are defective. Deputy Public Prosecutor Budiman Lutfi Muhammad said the prosecution had received the notice of motion and affidavit on the matter on Tuesday. Budiman said the prosecution team will file the affidavit in reply on April 15th and the defense will reply to it on April 19th. Both parties also have to file their submissions by April 22nd. However, he said the date for hearing of the notice of motion had yet to be fixed. In the notice of motion filed last April 3rd, Datuk Sri Najib is seeking the court to suspend or revoke the 7 charges made against him in the case on grounds that they are an abuse of the court process and defective in terms of form and substance. The Pekan MP is facing 3 counts of criminal breach of trust, 1 charge of abusing his position, and 3 counts of money laundering over SRC International Student Berhad's funds amounting to 42 million ringgit. Hearing of the case will continue on April 15th. Meanwhile, Datin Sri Rosmah Manso is set to be charged again with bribery in relation to the Rural Sarawak Schools solar project case. The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, or MACC, in a statement said that it had received the consent from the Attorney General's chambers to charge the wife of Datuk Sri Najib. She will be charged under Section 16, subsection A of the MACC Act at the Kuala Lumpur Sessions Court on Wednesday morning. The MACC had on Tuesday detained Datin Sri Rosmah at 1:45 p.m. after she came to the Commission's headquarters to help complete investigations into the solar project case. In November 2018, Datin Sri Rosmah had claimed trial to 2 counts of graft involving 187.5 million ringgit relating to projects to provide electricity to schools in Sarawak. In the first charge, Datin Sri Rosmah was accused of soliciting for herself a 187.5 million ringgit bribe from Jepat Holdings Sdn Berhad Managing Director Saidi Abang Samsudin through her aide Datuk Rizal Manso. She was also accused of receiving 1.5 million ringgit from Saidi as a reward for assisting Jepat Holdings in obtaining the same project. Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng on Tuesday said that only air travellers leaving the country will be charged the departure levy that was tabled in Parliament on Monday. He also said pilgrims who are performing the Hajj and Umrah for the first time will also be exempted from paying the levy.
The landing like Johor to Singapore?
No,
only air only?
It's only air only.
So air only, so nothing to
Nothing
do with
related to road, nothing related to ports,
Okay.
only air travel outside Malaysia.
So how many percent around?
Sorry?
How the rate, the tax rate?
Oh, the tax rate, I think we'll be making a final decision later lah. No, haji kalau bagi satu kali dan umrah satu kali, mereka tak kena.
Lim was speaking to reporters after officiating Credit Guarantee Corporation's SME Awards in Kuala Lumpur. The departure levy bill had underwent its second reading in Dewan Rakyat on Tuesday. The Malaysian University English Test, MUET, will remain as a precondition for students applying for entry into local tertiary institutions for their first degree. Deputy Education Minister Teo Ni Ching said this is in line with MUET's objectives when it was introduced in 1999. That is, to fill the gap in the teaching and learning of the English language as a second language at pre-university stage, as well as to strengthen and boost its proficiency among students.
Tambahan pula kini, MUET telah disejajarkan, aligned dengan izin, dengan the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages, CEFR dengan izin, dan telah diterima pakai sebagai syarat kemasukan oleh beberapa universiti luar negara sama kedudukannya dengan ujian International English Language Testing System, IELTS, dengan izin, dan Test of English as a Foreign Language, TOEFL, dengan izin.
Teo was replying to a question from Tasik Glugur MP, Datuk Shabuddin Yahya, who wanted to know if MUET was being reviewed or would be retained in the Dewan Rakyat on Tuesday. Australian firm Wesfarmers Limited has reiterated its interest in buying out Lynas Corp Limited, saying that it could table a less conditional bid for the only major producer of rare earth elements outside China. This comes after Wesfarmers' previous offer of $1.1 billion was rejected by Lynas's board, which termed the deal highly conditional. In a statement, Wesfarmers said it remains open to engage with the Lynas board on its proposal. Lynas, which has an $800 million processing facility in Gebeng, Kuantan, is at loggerheads with Malaysia over a controversial radioactive waste issue. Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad had said that the renewal of Lynas's operating license was conditional on low-grade radioactive residue being removed from its ore concentrate before being shipped to Malaysia. In response, Lynas on Monday announced that it was considering initial ore processing near its Australian mine. Still to come on Nightline, cigarettes worth 1.6 million ringgit seized. Details next. Welcome back. Early voting for the Rantau State by-election, which closed at noon on Tuesday, recorded a 96% turnout. The Election Commission EC said voting was conducted from 8 a.m. at 2 polling stations, namely the Sendayan Air Base and the Rantau Police Station. The Rantau State constituency has 20,926 registered voters, with 20,804 of them ordinary voters, 4 absentee voters, and the remaining 118 are early voters, with 8 of them voting through post. The Rantau by-election, scheduled on April 13th, is a 4-cornered contest among anaesthetist Dr. S. Sreram of Pakatan Harapan, UMNO Deputy President, and former Negeri Sembilan Menteri Besar Datuk Seri Muhammad Hassan of Barisan Nasional, as well as 2 independent candidates, namely R. Malarvizi, a housewife, and Muhammad Nur Yassin, a former lecturer. The by-election was necessitated by the federal court dismissal of an appeal filed by Datuk Seri Muhammad to set aside the November 16th Seremban election court decision declaring his unopposed victory in GE14 null and void. He was declared the winner of the seat after Dr. Sreram was prohibited from entering the nomination centre to submit his nomination papers because he did not have a pass issued by the EC. In Johor, the Marine Police have foiled another attempt to smuggle illicit cigarettes with the seizure of 1.6 million ringgit worth of the contraband during an operation at Taman Tampoy in Johor Bahru. A suspect has been detained while police are tracking another who managed to escape. Authorities said 2 men were seen unloading certain goods from a lorry into a waiting van when the raiding party arrived at the scene. The suspects were believed to be the lorry and van drivers.
Dan pemeriksaan lanjut terhadap lori dan juga terhadap van, kita telah menjumpai sejumlah 205 kotak rokok jenama konsep, iaitu mengandungi 10,250 kartun ataupun slop, dan bersamaan dengan 102,500 bungkus rokok jenis konsep.
The illegal activities were believed to be the work of a syndicate who smuggled the contraband items via land route. According to ACP Kon Chiang, the suspect was detained about 100 meters from the scene following a short chase while the other managed to flee. The suspect, who tested positive for drugs, also had a criminal record. In Terengganu, police are looking for 2 women believed to be Indonesians for allegedly running off with a gold chain worth 8,000 ringgit from a jewelry shop in Hulu, Terengganu. District Police Chief DSP Muhammad Adli Mat Daud said the incident took place at about 3 p.m. last Saturday, but the shop owner only realized the gold chain was missing later after making the daily stock. The incident was recorded by the closed-circuit television camera CCTV at the shop in Kuala Berang, showing the 2 women entering the shop on the pretext of buying jewelry. Shortly after, one of the suspects proceeded to grab a necklace and slip the jewelry into her handbag before leaving the shop. Police have since distributed the photo of the 2 women and urged those with information to contact the nearest police station. Meanwhile, in Pulau Pinang, 5 Indonesian men suspected of providing same-sex service were detained by the Pulau Pinang Immigration Department on Monday night. The suspects were picked up at a hotel on Penang Road during a raid at 10 p.m., with one of them caught in the midst of entertaining a local client. State Immigration Department Enforcement Chief Khalija Muhammad said that condoms, lubricants, sex toys and cash were among items seized during the operation, which was carried out following months of surveillance. The suspects are being investigated under the Immigration Regulations and the Immigration Act for violating their social visit passes. Over in Kelantan, police have arrested a 48-year-old man for investigation into the death of a man in Kota Bharu on Monday. This follows the discovery of a body with multiple slash wounds near a paddy field in Kampung Kedondong, Kadok. State Police Chief Datuk Hasanuddin Hassan said the suspect was arrested at about 3 a.m. Tuesday in the same village. The body, identified as 31-year-old Muhammad Daud Isa, has been sent to Raja Perempuan Zainab II Hospital for post-mortem. After the breather, British MPs pass law to block no-deal Brexit. Do stay with us. Nightline continues. British MPs on Monday passed a new law aimed at preventing a no-deal Brexit this week by obliging the government to ask European Union or EU leaders for a delay. The law has been rushed through both chambers of Parliament over the past week and was opposed by the government, which has said it could limit its room for negotiation with the EU.
Order. The ayes to the right, 390. The noes to the left, 81. So the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Unlocked.
The law was passed on the initiative of MPs subverting the normal order in which Parliament debates and passes government-proposed legislation. As a result of the law, the government now must put forward a motion in Parliament on Tuesday, setting out the delay that it would request at an EU summit on Wednesday. MPs will be allowed to vote on this and make their own suggestions as to the length of the delay. It allows the government to seek any extension from May 22nd onwards. Prime Minister Theresa May has asked for a delay until June 30th, but ultimately this is up to the EU leaders and it could be longer. The law does not actually prevent a no-deal Brexit when the deadline for Britain runs out on Friday, as that is the legal default if Britain and the EU cannot agree on an extension at the summit. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan and his ruling AK party, AKP, will demand a new vote in Istanbul on grounds that irregularities in voting directly affected the outcome. Speaking to the media, AKP Deputy Chairman Ali Ihsan Yavuz said doubt over local election results in Istanbul will remain if Turkey's High Election Board, YSK, rejects an appeal by the AKP to renew elections in the city. Thus, the party would demand for a renewal of the mayoral elections and will file in their extraordinary appeal on Tuesday. Earlier, the YSK rejected a request by the AKP to recount all votes in 31 Istanbul districts, prompting the party to vow to challenge the decision. Erdogan said on Monday the local elections were marred by organized crime at ballot boxes in Istanbul, raising the possibility of rerunning a March 31st vote in the city that handed a slim majority to the main opposition party. Still to come, Debel conquers Queen Stage. Do stay with us. We're back with sports, cycling the 2019 Le Tour de Langkawi. Australian rider Benjamin Dibble of Team Sapura Cycling claimed victory in Stage 4, involving a distance of 114.2 kilometers from Shah Alam Selangor to Genting Highlands Pahang on Tuesday. Dibble, who finished third as overall best rider in last year's race, conquered the hilly terrain of Genting Highlands with a time of 3 hours, 22 minutes, 2 seconds and wrested the yellow jersey as overall leader from American rider Travis McCabe of Floyd's Pro Cycling team. However, McCabe still retained the green jersey as Sprint King, while Angus Leon from Oliver's Real Food retained the King of the Mountain title. Colombian rider Hernan Ricardo of Interpro Cycling Academy finished second place in Tuesday's race, while American rider Keegan Suerbo of Floyd's Pro Cycling team came in third. Dibble's teammate Muhammad Zawawi Azman emerged as the best Malaysian rider in 26th place out of 120 riders, with a time of 3 hours, 27 minutes and 15 seconds in Tuesday's race, dubbed as the Queen Stage. The fifth stage will be held on Wednesday, covering 200.1 kilometers from Tanjung Malim to Taiping, Perak. We've reached the end of Nightline. Before we leave, let's take a look at Red Bull's Ragnarok, the biggest snow kiting event in the world, which saw over 200 competitors head to the vast frozen wilderness of Norway's Hardangervidda to compete. With that, I'm Nakia Bashirudin. Thank you for your time.